see, we're good. Yeah. So first, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself. So your name, where you graduated from, the year you graduated, and where you work, and maybe even tell a little bit about what you do.
My name is Tyler Schiferl, and I graduated from South Dakota State University in 2009 with a degree in agricultural and biosystems engineering and with mechanical emphasis, and I'm now a design engineer for Vermeer Corporation in Pella, Iowa.
Perfect. And how much
I
do you
might
love it?
tell a bit more later. About
Yeah,
what
no,
I do
absolutely.
as well.
I just wanted, yep, sounds good. So you talk a little bit about what you did as soon as you graduated and what your kind of your trajectory that's been your career path so far.
If I could even back up one more step, I hired on as a design engineer for Vermeer in the summer of 2008. And so I was looking for an internship to get some experience, and I had a professor who recommended Vermeer as a place to maybe check out. He'd heard good things about Vermeer, and so I met with some folks at the career fair up at SDSU from Vermeer, and they offered me an internship down here in the summer of 2008. So I came down here and I immediately fell in love with Vermeer, which was such a blessing. And to be honest, I thought I'd get some good resume material, get some good experience for the summer, and then kind of move on. But like I said, I immediately fell in love with Vermeer. And so what happened was I had the internship that summer, and then I went back to school to finish up my last year of school, and they offered me a full-time job upon graduation in 2009. And so when I started down here full-time, I actually worked as a design engineer in what's called our cutting edge department. And so the name is a little bit misleading, but what we do in our cutting edge department is we work on all the ground engaging tools for all of our large equipment. So things like horizontal drills, trenchers, anything that engages the ground, the cutting edge department works on the tooling for them. And so the neat thing about Vermeer is we have just a wide variety of products that we make. So everything from these horizontal drills, trenchers, to even on the environmental side, things like brush chippers and stump grinders. And on the agricultural side, things like hay balers and hay rakes. And so we have all these different kinds of equipment. And I worked in the cutting edge department on these ground engaging tools and really enjoyed what I was doing. I didn't even know what a horizontal drill was before I got to Vermeer. So to be able to come to a place and get this different experience in a company with a wide variety of products was really neat. And so the neat thing was I was designing these, I would do the custom orders for these horizontal drill for the reamers. And so I was designing reamers that were going anywhere from Canada to Texas to Dubai, getting to interact with these customers, getting to talk on the phone with dealers and things like that, and getting this good experience. And then about 3 years after my full-time employment, an opportunity came up here in our forage department, which would be like our agricultural products. And I have an agricultural background, grew up on a ranch in Nebraska, and so had always kind of wanted to get back to the agricultural side if I could. And so what I did, I took that opportunity. I really enjoyed what I was doing in the cutting edge department, but it seemed like a good development opportunity for me, and plus I wanted to get back to the ag side if I could. And so I took that job, and that's been about 3 years ago, and just really love what I'm doing here on the ag side. So I'm a design engineer here with our forage group, and I've worked on quite a few different various projects just even in the last 3 years. And things like large hay rakes I've worked on, design from the ground up, and bale processors and different things like this. And you know, the neatest thing, I guess, the thing that I love about my job, Vermeer is such a cool company that they encourage growth for us as employees, but especially as engineers. My job is so diverse. So at some companies, engineers might just sit behind a desk all day, and for some people that works great. But for me, I'm more of a hands-on type of person. So some days I might be at my desk for days or weeks designing something, but maybe the next week I might be out in the shop helping assemble this thing that I designed. Or the following week I might have my mud boots on, be at a feedlot, and testing out this bale processor that we're working on. So for me to have that variety of things that I get to do, and to be able to see projects go from design from an idea to designing on the computer, to building it, to testing it, there's just a lot of satisfaction that comes as a design engineer from that. And so that's been the neatest thing. It's just the variety of work that I get to do, and to be able to have that diversity of work. And so I truly feel blessed here to be able to do something that I enjoy doing. I go to bed on Sunday night eager to get up for work on Monday morning. So it's a blessing to have something that you go to a job that you enjoy.
That's great. I'm going to take one off not on here. We talked a little bit about the process that you get to build from start to finish. You get to see that come to fruition, essentially. How does it make you feel when you hear about the impact that what your equipment is actually doing out in the field? And even being in cutting edge and talking about the infrastructure and around the world, and maybe even talking a little bit about the opportunities that, where you've seen the equipment go and what it's doing in terms of, even talking like biomass and some of those things.
Absolutely. So that's the cool thing about Vermeer, because we're in so many different product lines and so many different things, we are able to make that global impact. So things like, these horizontal drills that I mentioned, and you mentioned infrastructure. So putting in things like water lines, like electrical lines, that's what these machines do. So whether it's, you hear stories about Vermeer equipment putting in utilities to villages and places that didn't have electricity before, didn't have water before. And those are the kind of products that I get to work on directly. And so I make, when I was in the cutting edge department, I was making the tooling that would actually cut the hole in the ground that would put those utilities in. Now that I'm on the ag side, to be able to, it's not unusual for me to be driving down the road in a different state, a long ways from here, and see a piece of Vermeer equipment that I designed out in the field, whether it's making hay or raking hay or processing hay. And so to know that we're feeding livestock or providing for things like that, that's eventually going to feed the world, there's a lot of satisfaction that comes in that, absolutely.
Awesome. I think you're nailing all of this. So now going back to your time at SDSU. So anything that you got to participate in, or anything that really stands out to you as a great experience during your time there?
Yeah, absolutely. I had always known that I wanted to be an engineer, even in high school and things. So I knew that I wanted to go to a school that had a good engineering program. So that's why I decided on South Dakota State University. So I had that in mind. But another reason that I was excited about SDSU was the rodeo team. So I actually originally went up to SDSU to get my degree in engineering, but also to be on the rodeo team. And so I rodeoed with the team for the first probably semester or half a semester while I was up there. I was roping and practicing with the rodeo team. Well, halfway through my first semester, the track coach called me and actually asked me to walk onto the track team. So I was a pole vaulter in high school and among other things, but he asked me to walk on as a pole vaulter for SDSU. And so I took him up on that, and I dropped the rodeo thing as far as the school year went and started on the track team. And so I pole vaulted for South Dakota State University for 5 years while I was there. I registered my freshman year and then competed for the 4 years following. And when you talk about just experiences, for me the track experience was pretty unbelievable. The friends and people that you meet, and then the places you travel to. In the springtime, we would compete from January through May. And most every weekend we were gone somewhere in the United States competing. And so the experiences that you get, you can imagine, the places that you see and the people that you get to meet, it was pretty unbelievable. So I just really feel blessed to have been able to participate in college athletics at that level. But the thing about it was there was other organizations I was involved with too, like Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I was on leadership with them for quite a few years during college, and other organizations on campus. And whether it's athletics or other, whatever you get involved in, whether it's athletics or clubs or programs, the neat thing that you get to learn, the biggest thing I think is the communication you learn from that. So it doesn't matter what you get involved with. If you get involved in engineering or any other discipline, you need to be able to communicate. And so if you can develop those things through these different organizations or whatever you get involved in, that's definitely what your ultimate goal would be. You're going to get all kinds of neat experiences and things. And the biggest thing, I guess, is to prioritize that way. That's one thing that it taught me. Being involved in college athletics, it takes a lot of time. And so we're traveling a lot, we're gone a lot, we're missing some classes, we're having to keep up on our schoolwork. I always knew my number one priority was to get an education. So the athletic thing came second. That was secondary for me. But in that, it was also important to me to do well in athletics. And so you need to prioritize. And so I knew my schoolwork came first, and athletics came second, and other things, time with friends and other activities came after that. And so if you can learn to prioritize, you can definitely manage these things, be involved in all these different things, get all this good experience, and still keep up on your schoolwork and ultimately achieve your education like you want.
What advice do you have? I have for freshmen, you have for current students. What advice do you have to give to the college students out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing to remember is just not to ever let anyone, whether it's yourself or anyone else, tell you that you can't achieve something. And so, especially from an educational standpoint. So, I mentioned that I was involved in college athletics, and some people had told me, well, you can't both be involved in Division I athletics and get an engineering degree. It's just too much, And I mentioned earlier, I had my priorities straight. I knew I was there to get my education, and the athletics came second. But I really felt like I could manage through that pretty easily. So don't ever let someone tell you that because you want to be whatever discipline, if it's an engineer, if it's a doctor, if it's a welder, whatever you want to get into, because you want to do something specific, and you also want to be involved in something else, or maybe you don't have the grades for it, don't ever let someone convince you, like I said, even if it's yourself, convince you can't do it. Because the main reason we're at college is to get an education, to pursue a career. And so I guess I also encourage you guys to think about what's going to fulfill you as a person from a career standpoint. There's so many people that get involved in a career because of it has a certain prestige with it, or there's a certain dollar sign with it. Well, chances are sometimes they get down the road and they're not real satisfied in their job. And so if you can find a career that you're satisfied with, and that you're blessed to wake up every morning and go do, like I am as a design engineer here at Vermeer, then you'll be fulfilled, because we spend an awful lot of hours in the working world. And if we have a job that we do just because we have to, or we think we have to go, it's going to be hard to find a life that's fulfilling. So find something that you're passionate about and pursue that from a career standpoint, and you'll live a long, blessed life with lots of time spent pursuing something that you enjoy.
Perfect.